Take a deeper look at what this means for the situation in Ukraine. For that, we have Jamil Jaffer, the founder and executive director at the National Security Institute, joining me now. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. What does this breach mean for both Ukraine and Russia?
Well, Lisa, one of the challenges here, of course, is figuring out who exactly did this. About 2 a.m. Local time this morning is when this dam was breached. There were accusations of shelling from both sides. I think the betting is that it was the Russians. But what this may do is permit them more time and space to be prepared for the Ukraine counteroffensive that's already begun, particularly down in Kherson, where Ukraine is hoping to make some gains against Russian forces.
Now, both Ukrainians and Russian-controlled areas are pretty much impacted by this devastation we saw. Why would either side destroy the dam? What do they have to gain?
Well, I think the assessment currently is that the Russians have the strategic advantage to gain. They destroyed the dam. They put the Ukrainian, sort of towns downstream under some stress and allow themselves to prepare their defenses better for this new coming counteroffensive. On the other hand, Ukrainians probably don't have a lot to gain strategically, but could have done it inadvertently as part of the shelling. Again, I think that's why the betting today is on the Russians. And you've heard Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General. You've heard other people stepping carefully because they're not sure. But there is a suggestion that the general consensus is this was a likely Russian activity. Is
there any possibility the dam was in disrepair and that's what led to the breach? Or are we making assumptions here? Could something else have been to blame?
You know, it's certainly a possibility, Lisa. You can't rule that out. But given that there was heavy shelling in the area at the time when the dam collapsed, I think that's why the assessment is it had something to do with the conflict there. Now, it's important to note that this reservoir contains about 18 million cubic meters of water. That's a tremendous amount of water. And as your correspondent noted, it does supply the cooling water for the Zaporizhia Dam upstream. Now, that reservoir, that reactor, there's 5 or 6 reactors there. They're in cold shutdown. So it's believed that they likely have enough water supply on hand to cool the reactors, but even in shutdown mode, which has been for a few months, it still does need that water to cool. And so that could be a larger problem if the water continues to flow out and the dam, the sort of outflow isn't stemmed at some point.
All right, so the tensions continue to mount. What can we expect to unfold in the next few days from both countries and on a global scale, if you were to assume or guess?
Well, look, I mean, obviously a huge rescue operation needs to take place to help those individuals who are there in the flood zone. This water will continue sort of downriver as the water continues to flow out. And so they need engineers there to help reinforce what's left of the dam and rebuild what they can. And then, of course, the important question is, what does the U.S. government and allies do if, in fact, this is demonstrated to be a Russian activity? You might remember back in the era when ISIS was making an effort against Mosul in Baghdad, the U.S. did conduct airstrikes to prevent Mosul Dam from being breached. I doubt that's going to happen here, but that has happened in the past when we've seen major infrastructure projects under serious threat.
Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks, Lisa.
The Biden administration